Hi, everyone. Welcome to Our Disabled Future, a series where disabled voices lead the way. I'm your host, Nico, and it is a good day for disability inclusion. Each day, during Disability Pride Month and beyond, I'm amplifying real disabled stories, where we are, where we want to go, and how the heck we're going to get there. Together, I hope. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined by Lindsay and Nick. Let's dive in. Hi, both. Thank you for joining me. So, Lindsay, tell us about yourself and your disabled life.
Thank you so much, Nico, for having me and letting me be part of this opportunity. This is a really cool project. My name is Lindsay. Pronouns are she, they, and I work for the ARC Oregon. And I'm just going right into my work because I don't have much of a life outside of that, as most neurodivergent people can identify with. Um, maybe all. But I don't want to speak for an entire community, of course. I've been on a journey actually with what disability looks like and means for me. I've worked in the field for 10 years now, though disability has been a part of my entire life. My mom had a disability. She passed away last year. But So we do lots of advocacy work, and the way that shapes and forms for me is I am an OTAC trainer for the ARC Oregon. And I mean, we teach all sorts of things. We teach about person-centeredness, trauma-informed care. We're teaching mental health first aid now. Um, and see, I'm doing that thing already where I talk about all the things but myself. So my disability and the way it shows up in my life is that I identify as ADHD, which for those that may not be familiar with that term, that means that I have both autism and ADHD. It turns out, despite what scientists thought previously, you can have both. I'm living proof of it. But I do have some mental health diagnoses as well, which is also common. Of course, we all know and live the dual diagnosis and comorbidity, intersectionality, all those terms. But so I, you know, Another part of that is all of my disabilities pretty much are invisible. So, there's a lot of things I could say around that, but we only have so much time. But yeah, so I I definitely believe the I am disabled because of society, because I didn't feel disabled until I realized, that I even had a disability, if that even makes sense. But yeah, so I mean, that's kind of what it looks like for me. I mean, I could go on and on, of course, but yeah, don't want to hog all the time.
Thank you for answering. I got a really good sense of your disabled journey up until this point. So then, Nick, tell us about yourself and your disabled life.
Yeah, so thank you for having me. My name is Nicholas Casa. I use he, him pronouns. I'm actually a co-worker of Lindsay's here at the ARC Oregon and the OTAC program. I'm not sure if Lindsay had mentioned it. OTAC is the Organ Training and Consultation Program. And, you know, the way disability kind of shows up in my life is I have CP or cerebral palsy, which is an umbrella term to basically phrase a whole bunch of just different disabilities wrapped into one whole big thing. But so I use a power wheelchair to get around. Um, and like Lindsay, I guess the easiest thing for me to do is kind of jump into my work life because for the longest time that's how I've identified myself. Um, I've been with the ARC organ for about 4.5 years. Been in the field of organs DD system for about 10 years. Um, Prior to working for the ARC organ and OTAC, I was a consultant for the Oregon Department of Human Services within the Oregon Council of Developmental Disabilities, helping families around learning about person-centered practices and how that works within the family dynamic and with children who were growing up with disabilities. Prior to that, I worked for another ARC chapter where I developed trainings based around employment and the benefits for employers to hire people with disabilities. Um, and then started my career in the brokerage system, which here in Oregon is one of our case management entities, where I was the outreach specialist working with families transitioning from school-based services into adult DD services. Um, how, like, I, growing up, I always knew that, I had a disability, but my um parents really never made me feel like I was different. They always made it a point to make sure um I fit in as much as possible. Um it wasn't until I entered high school and took a multicultural studies class. They did a unit on the Americans with Disabilities Act, and it wasn't until then that I realized um, that I not only had a story, but I had a story that needed to be shared. I remember the instructor coming up to me one time, and he's like, "Next time I do this unit, this was right before we were right before we ended for summer break." And I went and I was in that program all 4 years of high school because I just loved that class. And I remember he had told me, he goes, the next time I do this curriculum, I want you to share your story. And I remember telling him he was nuts. I was like, I have no story to share. I'm just a guy in a chair and I have no story to really share. Nobody wants to, hear about it. He's like, no, you have a voice. You have a story that needs to be shared. And so I started out I started out uh, presenting to that class my sophomore year with another teacher, and then by my junior year, um, that teacher had left, and I was helping the multicultural studies unit or program develop that unit into more of a curriculum that I could kind of support and do on my own. And that's where that kind of led me into the world of, hey, I like speaking in front of people. I do like sharing my story. Didn't realize I had a story, but I do, so let's talk about it. Um, but yeah, in a long drawn out story, I guess that's me. So
I'm so glad your teacher gave you that push to enter civic life and advocacy life.
yeah.
That's really wonderful. Thank you both. Lindsay, what does a disability-friendly future look like for you?
Oh, that's such a simple and not so simple question
I
in
know,
so
right?
many ways. Simple to understand, difficult to achieve and describe. I just in a broad sense, I just want every human to be able to walk into any shared human space and feel like they belong. Um, so what does that look like? That's obviously a much bigger question. So everything down to physical, to developmental, to cognitive, whatever the case may be, whatever the disability is, whatever the experience is, I want everyone to feel like they belong, which I know sounds so, of course, right? But obviously we're not there, and we're getting further away currently, unfortunately, with our current um things that are happening in the United States. But that's a whole nother podcast topic, Zoom, whatever you want to call it. But so yeah, I mean, for me, we were making progress, not fast enough because it's never fast enough. And that has come to an absolute dead halt because there are people wanting to take us backwards. So if nothing else, a disability future, a friendly future looks like we make progress. We don't stop and go backwards so that we have to fix things. We need to keep moving forward. I guess that's a really broad description of what's in my mind right now.
I can broadly support that vision. I like that. Uninterrupted progress. Nick, what about you? What does a disability-friendly future look like for you?
I'd have to agree with Lindsay. It's really, the disability community as a whole, and I'm not just speaking state by state, but the disability community as a whole has made really big strides in advocacy and making sure we have those things we need to um, live a good life, so to speak, and live the lives we want. But the current administration is taking us backwards, and so really, I think a future, positive future, is just making sure that we're making steps forward and not going all the way back. I remember, um, I often say this in our trainings, and Lindsay's heard me say this 1,000 times, but I often get to see our system here in Oregon from both sides of the table, as someone who works in it, but also receives services through it. And I remember when I started receiving services and then started working in it, I got the feeling that our state, Oregon, was one of the, top, states for systems and services. And as much as I love our state, and I do, I think due to things beyond our control, I think that's kind of shifted a little bit, and to put it nicely. And so I think what's really important is that we focus on where we've been and what we've been able to achieve and how do we continue on that trajectory forward, and so that we don't make a step backwards. Um, and so I think a disability friendly future is just one that, is equitable and makes sense to the people that it's supposed to serve and support.
Oh, and that actually brings up a really good point, Nick, is the difference between not a lot of people understand what equity means and the difference between
Yeah.
equity and equality.
Yep.
Equity means that I have what I need, Nico has what Nico
Yep.
needs, Nick has what Nick needs, so that we all have the access and ability to be part of
Yeah.
things in society. Equality wants everybody to have the same thing, and that obviously does not work.
No, and it doesn't, and that's why I specifically said equitable, because
Yep.
it needs to be an equitable system. And I
Mm.
think at one time we were in a direction where it could be that. And right now, and I'm not saying where it was that, but where it could be that. And right now it's definitely, we're getting further and further from that. So
That's fantastic. Thank you both. In both of your answers, you mentioned codifying the progress we've already made and finding some way to ensure constant forward movement so as to not slide back. How do we build that disability-friendly future that you both described? Lindsay, what's your take?
Yeah, I mean, right now it feels, I mean, I was actually just creating a graphic this morning to kind of show the sense of advocacy fatigue that I think many people are likely feeling right now. It doesn't mean we're going to stop, but self-care cannot be more important right now. And that's my mental health first aid side coming out. But, we got to care for ourselves before we care for others, the put your mask on before that whole thing. But how can we make that future a reality? I mean, gosh, I have a hard time understanding how that question even needs to still exist anymore. That's what I'm struggling with right now for the people who don't seem to understand. I try to remind myself that not everyone has a disability, not everyone's worked in the disabilities field for 10 years, and seen the impact firsthand. Um, but it's 2025, I think still, right? Yeah. Um,
Okay.
outside of like limited circumstances, I feel like, ignorance is a choice. Like, libraries, internet, sometimes you can get it for free through, I mean, the access is there and people are choosing not to use it. And of course, there's lots of things, people don't know how to do proper research, da 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 da. There's lots of problems. People, social media, they rely on that. But I guess how can we make that a future is we have to learn how to disagree without it dividing us so much. But at the same time, I'm also confused because I thought in general in society, we had similar values, and it doesn't feel that way anymore, which really complicates things because I thought we had generally similar values and maybe a different way of reaching those values is the way I've always looked at it from a, I guess, political sense, even though I hate politics. It's all about human rights for me. Um, but yeah, I mean, we have to learn how to start talking and stop fighting about everything.
That's fair. Here in Philadelphia, I like to say that every issue is a disability issue, and perhaps more widespread, every issue is a disability issue as well. It certainly is a big tent movement. Nick, what do you think? How do we build a disability-friendly future that you described?
How blunt can we be here?
Totally.
Um, Honestly, I'm just gonna shoot from the hip. I think it all begins with administrations and the people we have in power. Um, and what do I mean when I say that? I mean people that are pushing the narrative that things like equity and disability and things like just those basic human rights. We all know disability rights are human rights. Things like that are being like seen as bad or not the quote unquote thing that needs to be recognized. We have a system of people that are um running areas of our country that believe that what you see on social media is the truth. And so really where it starts is an administration that not only listens to people, but really cares about what people have to say, regardless disability or not. And that's why I have to say here in Oregon, we personally, I think our governor's on the right track. I think we have some good people, but I'm not just speaking for Oregon. I'm speaking nationally that we just need a shift in thinking from a lot of those people up top that can really understand, that can really see um that these are people. And I think the only way that we're gonna even start to go in that direction of a friendly disability future is by changing the narrative and changing the perspective of those people in power. Um, how we're gonna do that, I have no idea because I'm just one person. But yeah.
See, this is why I brought you with me, Nick, even though it kind of threw off Nico's routine a little bit, but Nico was very accommodating. Thank you again, Nico.
Yes,
But
thank you.
Nick and I train together all the time, and we just figured out really quickly that we kind of play off each other nicely because, he'll say something and I'm like, oh, yeah, I didn't think of that. So now I'm thinking of things, and we just
Yeah.
bounce off each other really really well. So that's one of the many reasons I wanted Nick to be a part of this.
Here for your answers, you do bounce well off each other. In both of your answers, I hear a call for greater communication, either bottom up or top down. And I agree that both of those are valuable and, in fact, necessary in a functioning democracy. What is a democracy if not a great machine that we all operate together? All
Well
right,
said.
friends, thank you. As we close our time today, I want to give you both a chance that we three, as disabled people, so rarely get. And that is a chance to brag about yourself, promote something cool you've recently done, maybe something you got in the works. If you're a big online person and you want to grow that, where can people find you? Just a chance for you both to be your biggest own cheerleaders and step up on that soapbox. Let's hear it. Lindsay, you first.
All right. So, per my usual, a lot of it's going to be work based because that's a big part of my life. And I'm not great at bragging about myself if it's not attached to something that benefits somebody else. So,
Even though
um,
we tell providers and case managers to do that all the time when
oh
in
yeah,
the
we tell
training.
other people to brag, but we're not yet. Yeah, especially Nick. And Nick's been very humble. Nick's pretty famous in Oregon. Nick's been on many things on top of the advocacy work. But I had to throw that out. I'm sorry, Nick. I always do that to him. Yeah, my name's Lindsay Dutton. Again, pronouns she, they. I work for the ARC Oregon. I'm an OTAC trainer. I teach a lot of different topics, really. Some of the topics I'm most passionate about is we currently have a grant. Actually, the ARC of the United States provided us with a great opportunity and some other chapters to teach mental health first aid, which is probably the most important thing in my life. I jumped at the opportunity and I'm so grateful for it because mental health has been a big part of my personal life, and people that I care about. And I really want to change things. Oregon is unfortunately dead last when it comes to mental health. Even though we're a blue state, it's red states are beating us. Come on, Oregon. Anyway, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not very good at social media, but I'm trying to get better. I love creating graphics. I'm just not good at the social part. Yeah, I'm on in LinkedIn and Facebook. The one thing I will brag about is I just had an article come out. I was asked to turn my flipping the switch compassion fatigue to compassion satisfaction training into an article for the National Journal for Direct Support Professionals. And it's the coolest thing I've ever done. So I can say I've been published, which is really cool. I've always wanted to write a book, but I have ADHD. So at least I can die saying that I was published. But yeah, I love what I do. I train providers and case managers, and Nick and I have been doing more things with families and self advocates, of course. And all I care about is just trying to be the best person that I can be and show up in society and make a difference. I want to change things for the better.
I love how you ended that. That's really fantastic. Nick, that's tough to beat, but I think you can do it. Let's hear it.
Oh, he will.
Well, as Lindsay said, I don't like to really talk about myself that much. So here's what I'm gonna tell you. I like Lindsay. Like I said, I've been an OTAC trainer for about 4.5 years. Um, I've in the 10 years that I've been in this field with Oregon, this is the job I wanted. This is where I wanted to be. This is what we're
Okay.
doing now is what I've wanted to do. Um, and so I and so really I guess I would end it with just like I love, training the next generation of case managers and providers as well. I love working with families and advocates. And I would just I go back to your question about a healthier disability future, and I'm just gonna say it. We need to see changes in the administration for that to happen. And so, um, while I love while I love the work I do, I never try to brag on myself because it's not about me. It's about the people and the families that we support to make our system that much better. So,
And on that sentiment, Nick, I think this is a worldwide thing in the disability community. I don't
hmm
think it's just Oregon. But
hmm
to summarize everything that we said, nothing about us without us.
yes.
I love that saying. Thank you so much. A very strong ending. All right, folks. Tune in next time. Remember, This is our disabled future. We're building it one day at a time together. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I'm rooting for you, and I can't wait to see what you do next. Bye.